Hello and welcome to round 4 of this Modern Challenge review with Neoform. Want to play? And let's draw a hand here. Whoops. Alright, so let's see what our hand is. We have 2 lands which we can use to cast Neoform. We do have the Neoform and the 2 green lands, although notably we do have the Northern Shoals which we would prefer not to use, but we do not have the Allosaurus Rider. But I think this is an acceptable hand. It's a potential turn 2, and Pact of Negation is a nice insurance to have against control decks. So I think it's a keep, and we do keep. It's kind of unfortunate that our only lands are the pain lands, especially against, well, what is this? So this appears to be a red-white taxes kind of a thing. I have no idea what the archetype is. I've seen it around with like goblin engineers and a bunch of hateful artifacts and hateful creatures such as Leonine Arbiter, Thalia Guardian of Thraben, and Flickerwisp and all that. So I would imagine this is a pretty tough match if we cannot combo early. So let's see what we can do here. Well, we're not skillful enough to draw the Allosaurus Rider, so we're just going to keep going like this. Hoping it's not a Thalia. It is a Thalia. Thalia with the Giver of Runes is going to be pretty obnoxious, and I'm not sure if we can win from here. Um, I think drawing one more land and summoning Gristlebrand might be good enough, but I'm pretty sure they play Path as well, if not some sort of removal if they are aware that they don't want the synergy with the dyssynergy with the Leoning Arbiter and Ghost Quarter, but we'll see. There's a third piece of mana, but it's notably they're all pain lands, so we're not going to have much time, I think. Notably, I don't think we can sacrifice the draw here because we do need at least 3 mana to get the Neoform up. So they do have the Goblin Engineer. Alright, Sword of Fire and Ice we don't care about. Huh, what is this? They have their own Thalia, so they cannot be representing Path. So it's an interesting decision from our opponent. It's not the most favorite thing to do, take 2 cast Sermon Vision, but I think we have to. We do have the Summoner's Pact, but unfortunately it doesn't work great with Thalia because we will have to pay 1 for the Pact and 3 for the Neoform, so we need 4 mana total. So I don't think we can actually keep this. I think we need to go specifically for Allosaurus Rider. So let's see what I do. Double bottom. That is probably correct. Alright, so they don't have a flash 1 mana spell or anything like they're representing. Attack, yeah, that's fine. Annoying. Yep, what are we gonna get? I imagine they have vials to trade in. They're a vial for something that they tutor for. Like a Spyglass or a Pith Needle. Revoker is pretty good. I'm really unlikely to win here, so there's consideration for not casting anything and conceding right now, because if you cast the Nursing Show pitching Chancellor of the Tangle, you're gonna give away your Urgit. I do still do it because I think it's probably worth it. And if you draw a Allosaurus Rider, there's still a decent chance of winning, so I think it's fine. That's not a good draw. Yep, that's fine. That's super annoying because it'll flicker the other Flicker Wisp, which will come back on end step, which means that I get temporarily Stone Rain. And now I think I'm mathematically locked out to win because we can't even cast Neoform. We do that, but we're starting to run short on green cards as well, and land. So we basically need to go Runner, Allosaurus Rider, and land. I don't think this does it because we cannot cast a Neoform. I think it's over, but I think we're just going to keep playing on. Oh, this does come back, so it is possible that we still win from here. Yep. So if the third Flicker Wisp wasn't here, we could actually cast Allosaurus Rider, take 3 damage from the lands, and Neoform it. So we might have had a shot here, but c'est la vie, we go on to the next game. All right, welcome to game 2 against Red-White Taxes, which looks pretty sweet to me. So how I sideboarded here was, so it's not quite clear what kind of hate pieces they have. They could certainly play a Grafdigger's Cage, which probably is more likely that they have leaned towards Artifact Hate because of the Goblin Engineer package. They could also have Pithing Needle. We've already seen a Phyrexian Revoker, Sorcerer's Spyglass if they have a Chalice of the Void. So I think we're definitely leaning towards artifact form of hate, but we also don't know because they have Thalia and they might have like Canonist or if it's, what is it called here? Eidolon of Rhetoric. So my hedge was engineered explosives, so I brought the 2 engineered explosives and 2 slaughter packs as well for the hate bears. But it's hard with these decks that we don't know about or we don't know what the net deck list is because we're guessing and we're trying to only make the most informed guesses. So I wouldn't be surprised if the list demands more oxidizes than slaughter packs, for example. And I took out the 2 Serum Visions and Edge of Autumn and Noxious Revival. As I said, these cards are some of the weaker ones, and sometimes when you need to bring these answers, these are the first ones to cut. So let's see what we have here. We have 2 green cards, we have Neoform, and all we're missing is an Allosaurus Rider or a Pact, Summoner's Pact. Now, it's unfortunate to have a dead card like Griselbrand in opening hand, and it goes double because if you draw another Griselbrand, it's over. But I think this hand is far too good to keep, to mulligan. We do have the 2 mana as well as the Engineered Explosives. And we agree. No vial, please. Excellent. All right. Like a professional, we're going to draw the Allosaurus Rider. We do not. There's a decision between playing out the Engineered Explosives for 2 or waiting to see if they have Needle or Grafdigger's Cage or whatnot, but of course, given that they did not play the turn 1 hate piece, we're going to preemptively put it on 2 just for mana efficiency and so we can get under Thalia, although that doesn't matter for certain Sunburst. Yep. And let's pass the turn. Thalia would be reasonable. Revoker would be reasonable. Alright, so they play Revoker and they're forced to name this, which is reasonable. We don't have any way to get Allosaurus Rider, so we just keep passing. At the end of the turn here, if they don't do anything threatening, we may consider cycling this, and whether we use the Gemstone Mine or take 1 damage from the Grove is also an interesting question. We'll see what they do here. Interesting. The fact that they did this but didn't tutor for Grafdigger's Cage, for example, makes me a bit curious. Because we have explosives. Oh, no, never mind. It's needled off. Okay. So that tilts me towards them not having Grafdigger's Cage in their 75, which might be interesting to note for the later. So we do cycle. And then I think we value the mining counter on Gemstone Mine more than life, because if we do combo off, we can still draw 2 life here. Skillfully, we do draw the Allosaurus Rider, so we're going to start the combo off here. Notably, Life Goes On can still gain life. And I think I would just pitch the 2 here because these are useless now that we're casting Neoform, whereas Chancellor can at least gain you 7 life with the Nourishing Shoal. Which is what we do. Take 1. Alright. So they can still have Path. No draw. Question is, do we go off here? First of all, we're 6 cards away from being the library size being divisible by 7. It's interesting to note. So we have 4 Spirit Guides still available. We have the 1 land drop, so let's call it 5 total mana. 3 available for this turn, 3 of which must be devoted to Laboratory Maniac. So 2 extra mana is still nice. We have the Life Goes On to draw. So I think I would err on the side of just actually going for it and start tutoring the Worm and try to thin the deck here. I think we have enough to try to combo off. I do agree. Alright. another show is nice. Another Similar Spirit Guide is nice. I think we're a big favorite to win from here as long as we properly manage the size of the library and cast the Metamorphoses and the Summoner's Pact to have access to the entirety of your library. Let's gain 50 more. Let's draw 7 more. Another show is great. Alright, 2 Summoner's Pact. So we're 5 cards away from 14, so I'd imagine we would fire off both. I do. Alright, let's keep going. Now, notably, with the 4 Metamorphoses, we can have access to the entirety of the deck, so we're really unlikely to lose from here unless they have, like, Mind Break Trap or something. I get a bit lazy and try to fire this off when there's no more green creatures left. It's fine. Alright, I think everything is academic from here. Yeah, pitch. Laboratory Maniac. Yeah, I keep it tight by casting all 3 Metamorphoses, so if they have infinite, like, Force of Despair or Slaughter Pact or whatnot, we can keep responding to the disruptive spell by redrawing or Edge of Autumning or casting Life Goes On and redrawing. So that's the tight way to do it. Right, so now we have 0 cards in the deck. And we win. So that was a clean combo, even though it was on turn 4. But we did it. So let's go to game 3. Interesting. So I do adjust the sideboarding by bringing the Oxidizes and taking out more Serum Visions and taking out Engineer Explosives, which I'm not sure is correct actually because they didn't tutor for the Grafdigger's Cage, so what's the worst they could have? Although the Spyglass effects are pretty annoying, so I think it's correct here, but you're still really scared of Thalia, so I think I would prefer at least one more Engineered Explosives over Oxidize. And also note that because Thalia on turn 2 is a very big possibility, sometimes like you're just going to be late and you're just not going to have enough opportunities to cast Serum Vision. So as I said on the draw, you're more inclined to sideboard out Serum Visions. All right, what does this do? We have 2 lands and a Similar Spirit Guide. Great. We have the Neoform. Excellent. And we have the Allosaurus Rider as well as an Oxidize, which is an answer to Artifact Hate card as well as being a green card. This really re-emphasizes the fact that we really need a large density of green cards. And the fact that your anti-hate card can be a green card is excellent. So I think we're going to keep this. Yes. It's an excellent hand. Alright, turn 1. Do nothing. Thalia. Okay, another land's not that bad. No, actually, that's pretty bad because we want the green card. Thalia, Arbiter. Okay, what do you got? Interesting. So game 2, when they tutored, they didn't even tutor for the Grafdigger's Cage, leading me to believe they didn't have it or they had it in hand. But if they had it in hand, they would have cast it already. So it's a bit strange, the play pattern. But obviously this is in now and we have to plan for it. Thankfully, we do have the answer here and we do have the answer here. So depending on what we draw, we do have the proper countermeasure. All right, we have 2 Oxidizes. So I think what we're going to do is just play a land, Allosaurus Rider, and go to town with Neoform. Which is what we do here. Yep. Draw 7. So the question you always want to ask is, 1, if you miss, can you get punished? And because they're not a burn deck, they're less likely to. Like, Path to Exile is still a big punishment. We could obviously go for it again next turn. We have the Pact, we have the Allosaurus Rider, and we have the Neoform. And we have an extra land drop, which is great. But I still think that we should draw 1 PO7 more and see what happens. Yes. No Nourishing Shoals. Interesting. Do we have a life goes on? We do. Do we have a Cantor? Because Manamorphose cannot be cast on 1 mana. But we do have the 2 Simian Spirit Guides here. So we gotta ask if it's worth it to keep going here. I can see it go both ways, but keep in mind the constraints are 1, life, and we don't have any nourishing shows yet. We do have the life goes on, but the other constraint is mana. If we use the life goes on, if we use 2 spirit guides and 1 Manamorphose to cast life goes on, we literally only have 3 mana left to try and win this turn. Because we didn't pact for the Allosaurus Rider, it is possible that we should get aggressive and we can Simian Spirit Guide Manamorphose into blue-green and try to cast this. Interestingly, that's what we do. It is defensible, I think, to pass, but Path to Exile, any sort of removal or Needle is like too much of a concern, although we do have an answer to the Needle with the Engineer Explosives. It's not as efficient, and it might cost an entire turn, which is why I don't like it. All right. The other thing is that because the foes brings us to 35 and not 34, it's much easier to make the decision to keep going, because if it went to 34, we might not be able to find the other 3 sorry, we might not be able to massage the library size into something we can manage that's near it being divisible by 7, and therefore, there's a risk, the less risk of not being able to access the Simmering Spirit Guides or Laboratory Maniac. Unfortunately, we do not hit our Nourishing Show, but we can cast the Life Goes On. Cast it. Man, we're not having any luck today. So even though we've comboed, notably we did not pact or anything. So I think we can just be well off by casting the Allosaurus Riders. I think it's free to do so and sculpt the best hand for next turn. Yep, yep, yep. I mean, this is still very hard to beat, right? This is if we play a land next turn, it's 12 power, 20 power. It's going to be Xaxes. So you're a move, opponent. We can even keep the Slaughter Pact and try to go for the kill. It's a turn too late there, buddy. So that actually means that the attack is lethal. We have 12 plus 8 is 20. So even though we didn't combo off, sometimes the 8/8 life flinker plus the free 4/4s on turn 2 and 3 are indeed enough. So even though I think it's a pretty tough matchup, they have a lot of disruptive pieces that can really screw with us. We did manage to win, which is great. So this is round 4 against Red White Taxes, and I will see you in the next video.